We all know how deadly the hybrid feeder is, but one place it's definitely overlooked is on these small snake lakes. Today we've come down to White Springs on the canal. We're on peg 11 and I'm going to show you how to get the most out of this deadly feeder on these smaller waters. So when it comes to hardware for these kind of lakes, as you can imagine, you probably do on a 12 or a 13 foot rod. We're only going to be casting 15 metres, so everything's going to be scaled back. So what I've got for today is my favourite little setup for this kind of fishing. I've got just a little 9 foot end gauge there. That's got a soft 3/4 ounce tip in it. That's just mashed up with a little 3000 reel with nice strong 8 pound Pulse Pro on there. And then what I've got is the last 3 foot of my rig there is 030 fluorocarbon, and attached to that I've just got a nice big loop, so it's nice and easy to get my rigs on and off. And what I'm going to start on is a 24 gram small hybrid, enough weight in there to be able to underarm it across and hold on the far shelf. And it's just a case of just clipping him on, sliding the rubber over the top, and he's ready to fish with. The reason I've gone for elasticated is because we're fishing quite close to ourselves. I don't want like a bowstring tight line to my feeder. Everything's going to be like nice and slack, and the slack line it. That's why I've got the fluorocarbon there, help it hold on the bottom, nice heavy line. And then I'm just going to have my tip set really soft, and I need that elasticated feeder for a boat rig effect. Normally I like to fish in lines, but for this, if I'm fishing a slack line and a fish picks up my hook bait, the feeder will just sort of stay there and the line will come away and it won't hook itself. So I need the bolt action of a fixed feeder for this. In there, I've got some nice strong black elastic. That'll also help with cushioning hook pulls because it's so close quarters, the fights are quite erratic and you will get an odd hook pull. But with that little bit of elastic, that'll just help eliminate that. And then on the hook, what I want to do is fish either pellets or wafters here today. So I've just got some QM1s, some size 12 QM1s with a bayonet on them or a bait band. So bait wise for the hybrid, like we touched on earlier on, it's all going to be pellets. Firstly, I've just got some fishery micros there. These are the dark scrutiny type ones. And what I done, I soaked them last night in the house, just flooded them with water for 2 minutes, strained them off, put them in a bag and put them in the fridge overnight. And they are absolutely perfect. But I also said we're going to fish with 4s. I know these take a little bit more prep, but still pretty simple. So they are nice and soft. Them 4s look like stick together, but they'll be perfect for putting in the hybrid, just to avoid all like the eyed and the little skimmers. I don't really want to catch them on this kind of method. What I did with them last night is I poured the pellets into a Guru bait strainer, popped it inside this tub, and then filled it up with water, let them sit for 4 minutes in the water, took the strainer out, strained them off, into a bag, into the fridge overnight. And today, to be honest, you could probably put a hook through one of them. They're absolutely perfect now, nice and soft all the way through, but they've got a little bit of stick. And if I need to stick them up a little bit more, what I'll do, I'll just give them a little blob of cell stick mix, just to make them a little bit more sticky to go on the feeder. And also what we're going to do is make like little balls of either 4 mils and micros or micros and 4s mixed together, and I'll be just throwing little balls in down the edge, just where I can underarm a hybrid later on in the session. So like I touched on, feeder choice for this is a hybrid, mainly because it's quite deep across the islands on this lake and down the edge. It's about 3 foot. And I want to fish with pellets and I want to fish with 4 mils as well as micros. So I just feel like fishing a hybrid, everything stays in there a bit better. It fishes a lot easier. In that slightly deeper water, it's going to keep a nice base of pellets on there. What you can find is with a method, where it's a little bit deeper, you lose a lot on the way down. But with that, it's going to keep all my 4 mils and micros in there nice and tight. If I wanted to fish ground bait, I'd probably look at a method, but because I know in here there's a lot of like small skimmers, eyed and stuff, I don't want to catch them. I just want to fish with pellets and like hard pellets on the hook or wafters, just to try and, I don't want to be winding an eyed back in if possible. So that's the reason for the hybrids, because of the depth of water and because of the pellets we're going to fish. So that's the feeders covered. Next thing to bear in mind is casting. Casting is a lot more awkward with this kind of fishing than normal because you're going to be underarming it. So what I think will be worth doing is just running you through quickly how to cast accurately on these shorter, awkward little chucks with short rods. So like I said just now, probably the most awkward part of this fishing is getting your casting right, and it takes a little bit of practice. Underarming isn't quite as easy as your normal traditional kind of casting, but a little bit of practice and just take your time. Like, don't try to hit the island your first go. You know, lob it short and then obviously use your line clip in like 2 or 3 foot spells to work your way across to the island to where you want to be. But basically what you want to do is hold your feed in your left hand, keep a bit of tension so you can see the tips bending there, so I've got a bit of tension. Finger just trapping the line, and then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold the feeder, aim at where I want to go. There's a bit of bare bank there you can just see by the island, and it's just a case of now holding the feeder, taking up a tension in the tip of the rod, and then I'm going to push the rod out and then leave go of the feeder. Hit your clip, and there we are, in there, 6 inches from the island. And then all you need to do then is just tease a little bit of line off until you're as tight as you want to go. I'm quite happy to start about 6-8 inches off the island, and if we really need to, we can always tinker with that and get a little bit tighter. But it's definitely a practice thing. Before you start the session, have 10 or 12 casts just to get your eye in. Take your time when you're clipping up. So just take the tension up, trap a line on your spool, hold the feeder, and then you're just pushing the rod away. Let go of the feeder, hit your clip, and you're in there, and that is absolute money in my opinion. So that's the casting. I think the most important part now is getting fishing and catching some carp. So let's get a hook length on and get a bait across the island. So finally we're ready to start doing a bit of fishing, and what I'm going to start on, I'm just going to start on a 6mm fishery pellet. You can use whatever pellets you want here, but they get fed on fishery pellets, and that seems to be the best bait on here at the minute. They're really on the pellet. So a 6mm in a band to start, and just to start with, I'm just going to go micros. So just put my little bit of stuff in there to start, give that a real good squeeze, get it all in there. Like, I'm not even worried if that don't come out the feeder, that stuff. And then, so that's all squeezed in there, like that. Just make sure my tail rubber's on nice and tight. And then it's just a case of, I'll just fold my hook bait into the feeder, and then with the hook, I'll just press the hook in, like that, with my nail, so that's all sat there. And then I'm just gonna mould the top pellets on, not like super, it's just pop loose there. I don't want it like super tight, because as we've seen from those underwater videos, it seems like if your hook bait can come out of the feeder quite quick, that definitely seems to be the better way. So I've moulded them on. It's just a case now, just tidy that feeder up a bit, get off all that like loose stuff, mould him on, and there we go. There's the hybrid to start with. So what I'm going to do to start, I'm going to try and get it up against that mud bank where we clipped up, and for the first couple of chucks I'm just going to fish like this. I'm not going to like loose feed pellets or anything yet. I'm just going to start and try and catch a few fish just with the feeder as it is, and then if I feel like we need to get some more fish in, I've got a catapult and some fishery 6mm, and I'll just start pinging a few pellets over the top of that line to get some fish in the peg. But for now, let's just start like this. So like we done earlier on, just going to hold the feeder in one hand, give it a squeeze, and then with my right arm just push the rod away, nice and smooth, and there you are. We are in there within inches of the far bank. So just like our method feeder video, I'm just going to sink the line gently with my hand, and like I said earlier on, we're not going to fish with like a bowstring tight line on this, because it's so close. I don't want that line just going straight across through the fish. I'm just going to leave it almost just settle on its own. And what you'll find with the bites is they'll just be quick jags like that, and then almost a drop back, pick up, and he's hooked himself against the feeder, which is perfect. So just bring that rod back close to me. Now, we're targeting the island for now, but like I said earlier on, another good place to target on these kind of lakes is down the margins, where we're just going to throw balls of micros through the day, just like that sort of size ball of micros, and we're just going to throw them down to the next pallet. It'll be a similar depth to over there. It's about 3 foot, so it's not like a super shallow lake. This is quite deep all around the features. That's why the hybrid can be so good, because when you fish a pole across there, you can suffer a lot with foul hooked fish, and then if you come here and it's windy, there you are, see it? So that's instant there. I think I was a fish. Picked that up halfway across then. But like I said, the pellets are still in there, which is good. That could have been a small fish, I'm not sure. But we'll have another chuck. I could have probably picked up on that a bit quicker, to be honest. So the hook bait, everything's fine. So back in. This is just a nice way to start. It's, you know, it's nice. It's not going to wreck your peg. You can get a bit of a gauge what's happening. Sometimes you can just do it like this and you'll just keep going round. But we have got the 4 mils there if we need them, and those 6 mils to start loose feeding. So again, just line up, try and get your body straight to where you're going to chuck it. Take up the tension with your left hand. So aim up to where you want to chuck it, over to that mud bank. Take up that tension with your left hand and then just push forward with your right again. Oh, come on. So get lined up with where you're going to chuck across. Take up, there's a nice bit of tension there, that'll help spring the feeder out to the far side. Hold onto your feeder and then just push that right hand forward. And then feather it in. And again, just sink that line. There we are. I'm not going to put any tension in the tip of the rod at all. Just leave it all slack. Let that fluorocarbon come down, sit on the bottom. Okay, Eva? Good girl. So that cast has been in there now 5 minutes. What I don't want to do is leave it in there too long. Like early on, I want to try and build the peg up best I can. So I'm going to change that 6mm for a nice fresh one. I had a few liners then, but nothing really materialised into a bite. So I don't want to leave it in there for ages. I'm expecting to catch a few fish on this, so again, just squeeze that base in nice and hard. Ooh, there's a big carp just crashed over there. And then just put the top ones on. It's just a case of tidying it up. Give them a good squeeze on that. There she is. Let that line be nice and loose. So there's no bend in the tip at all, it's just sort of, the tip is straight and the line is just sort of sagging down then. There we are. That's a bite. Real savage bite that was as well. What's that? I've got a feeling that's a big old, oh yeah, big old bream. Not what we were after, but nice to start with. Just look, you find with those fixed feeder, you get such a savage bite off of them. So, popped out in the net. But I'm sure, with just a bit of activity in the peg to start, those carp won't be too far away from them. So I'm going to stick with this for another 2 or 3 chucks just with these micros, and if I still feel like there's a few nuisance fish in my peg, I'm going to swap it over to the 4mm, and then from there it'll be a case of maybe starting to loose feed some 6s then. But for now, it's early on in the session, don't need to go panicking about anything yet, just keep plugging away. So I'm just going to make sure I move my net out the way. And then just try and keep everything nice and smooth. Well, that's absolute money in my opinion. In my humble opinion. So just sink our line down. Don't want to move the feeder. Yeah. Just take up our little bit of slack. And then rod on the rest. Just take up a bit more slack. Just so everything's in a straight line. I don't want it like bowing off at a side or anything, I just want it to go down off the rod tip and then back up to the feeder. There you are. And that's us, we are fishing for another chuck. We're only a couple of chucks into the session now, but already I feel like making like a change. So what I've got some nice white mainline cell pellets there, nice and pale, nice contrast to these dark pellets. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put an 8mm in a band this time now, and I'm going to put those 4s in around the feeder. I thought we might have had a carp, you know, with first sort of 2 or 3 chucks, but it hasn't happened. So let's just push them 4mm in to the feeder. So they're wedged in there like that. And then 4s over the top, squeeze them in. What it might be is there seems to be a lot of skimmers and stuff around the islands. It's getting towards spawning time and they tend to like push over to the islands to spawn, so maybe those micros are just pulling a few too many little bits in. But let's just try some 4mm. And if this don't work, what I'll do, I'll start loose feeding some pellets over there. But for now we'll just have a little go on this, so nice and smooth again. Oh, trick shot there. Bounced that one off the island and in, but it'll do. So just sink our line. Just gently put that rod back in the rest. So there's our first pull on the feeder. I didn't really know what happened there then for a second. But there's a nice carp. That's just changing from those micros to a 4mm now, that. Nice little fat little common. So we're underway. A nice 8mm. And then 4s and just cram him into the base of that feeder there. Bring him round. Push your hook in there like that. And it does take a little bit more moulding with these 4mm obviously, because there's going to be more gaps in between the pellets to squeeze in. You could put a few micros in with it just to plug the gaps, but I think those 4mm are quite nice. There it is. Just move our net. Don't want anything in front of you to get like caught up on. So nice and straight. Over she goes. So again, just sink our line. There you go. So I'll give that another sort of 5 minutes, that chuck again. Just take up that little bit of loose there. Little indication straight away there. Hopefully now we've gone away from those micros and started using 4s and an 8mm. Hopefully start catching a few more carp now. And there you are. There's a second bite. And that one's going absolutely mental, and that's what I mean about having that elasticated feeder on. Because they fight so erratic when you've got them on a short line like that. You've got to watch out for hook pulls. Well, that's 2 now, just feed with 4mm around the feeder. And a bigger pellet on the hook. I think what I'm going to do next, I'm going to start loose feeding some 4s. Loose feeding some 4s or some 6s. Probably 6s actually. And see if we can get a few more fish into the peg a bit quicker. Like that bite absolutely rocketed it off the rest. There we go. And see if we can catch a few by pinging a few pellets. That's a nice fish. I can't even get my hand around him. He's a right chunk. Keep still, bite. So we pop him back in there like that. Move that handle out the way. And then slide all that back down. You can see the exchange there. That's how that works. If it had ever broken off, that could have pulled the elastic out through the feeder and the fish wouldn't have been tethered up on that. So I'll just pick out a nice short 8mm. And that one was just coming to the end of the cast as well. I was just about to wind that in. So perhaps we leave him out there a little bit longer than 5 minutes. But these 4mm have definitely done the trick, and you'll have a job doing this with a method. It's hard to get them right for the method, but with those sides on that hybrid feeder, it just keeps those 4mm in the feeder feel nice. So that's nice like that. Just going to take a bit more tension up. So I hope you enjoyed that video. That's more of like a how-to style video, so I didn't really want to go too much like of fishing in it. I think it's just more important to get your setup right, get your bait right, and get that casting right, and then I've done a little bit of fishing just so you can see. If you've enjoyed that kind of a video, give the channel a like and subscribe, and if you would like to see any other how-tos, just pop it in the comments, and I'll catch up with you on another one.